My husband says our daughter won't remember being treated differently. I think it's a wound she'll carry for the rest of her life. This story is about a mother who started to see a disturbing pattern in her own home. A pattern of celebration for her son, and quiet neglect for her daughter. It all began innocently enough, with a little bit of holiday magic. But when she finally confronted her husband about it, his answer revealed a much deeper problem, one that she knew she had to stop before it was too late. She has two beautiful children. A 5-year-old son named Ken, and a 2-year-old daughter, Amy. Ken had the luck of being born on St. Patrick's Day, a built-in theme for every birthday. When she was pregnant with Amy, she'd secretly hoped for another, lucky, day, maybe 11/11ths, just a little cosmic sign that both her kids were special. But Amy arrived on a perfectly normal, unspecial day. And from the beginning, things were just different. She'll be the first to admit it. Second child syndrome is a real thing. With Ken, every detail was obsessed over, every milestone meticulously planned. He was a COVID baby, born into a world of anxiety, and she poured all of that nervous energy into making his world perfect. With Amy, she was more relaxed, more tired. She still felt that deep, overwhelming love, but the frantic energy just wasn't there. You could see it in their birthday parties. Ken had a big party, every single year, with all their friends and family. A huge celebration of him. For Amy's first birthday, they had a small gathering at home. They told themselves they'd have a bigger party for her later, but life got in the way, and it never happened. They made up for it with a big party for her second birthday, but that first one still sat like a stone in her gut. A quiet little reminder that things weren't quite equal. Then came the leprechaun. 2 years ago, she was watching her niece, who was making a leprechaun trap for school. It seemed like a cute idea, so they built one too. She thought it was the new elf on the shelf, a fun little game for the kids in the week leading up to St. Patrick's Day. And for the past 3 years, a mischievous leprechaun named Rascal has visited their home, causing a little bit of chaos and bringing a lot of joy. But here's where this sweet tradition started to turn sour. She never intended for Rascal to be just for Ken. In her mind, the leprechaun was visiting the house, visiting the kids. But somehow, the family lore got twisted. Because Ken's birthday was on the 17th, Rascal became his leprechaun. This year, she found out her brother and sister weren't even doing it for their own kids anymore. Why? Because, as they explained, leprechauns only come for kids born on St. Patrick's Day. A ridiculous, made-up rule that was suddenly being treated as gospel. A rule that drew a magical circle around her son and left her daughter standing on the outside. She tried to ignore the uneasy feeling. She told herself that at least in their house, Rascal was for both of them. But then her own mother made a comment that made her blood run cold. She picked the kids up from her mom's house, and her mom mentioned something about the leprechaun, casually remarking that she knew he was only there for Ken. The story was spreading. The narrative was set. Ken was the special one. The night before Ken's birthday, she didn't get a chance to talk to her husband. The next morning, they woke up early, as they always did, to decorate. Balloons and green streamers were everywhere. A magical wonderland for their son to wake up to. As they were finishing, she turned to her husband and asked, trying to keep her voice light, "Are we leaving some chocolate coins behind from Rascal for Amy, too?" His answer was quick, and it was final. "No," he said. "The leprechaun is only here for Ken." The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. She took a breath. "Okay," she said. "Does that mean we're going to find something this special to do for Amy's birthday then? A fairy that visits for a week, or something else that's just for her?" He looked at her like she was crazy. "No," he said again. And then he delivered the line that broke her heart. He said that by the time Amy is old enough to actually realize there was a leprechaun just for Ken, they will have stopped doing it. Ken will be old enough to know they aren't real, and the whole thing will just fade away. A non-issue. She just stared at him. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Did he not remember that they started this whole tradition when Ken was 3? He was only 8 months older than Amy is right now. 8 months. Of course she would remember. Even if they only did it for 2 more years, that's 2 more years of her brother waking up to a week of magic, culminating in a house covered in decorations just for him. It's enough. It's more than enough for a little girl to learn her place. And in that moment, she realized this wasn't just about a leprechaun anymore. This was about the kind of family they were going to be. She saw the future so clearly. Amy, as a teenager, as a grown woman, looking back at family photos. Seeing Ken beaming, surrounded by streamers and balloons year after year. A week-long celebration of his existence. And what would she see for herself? A cake and a few presents. She would wonder, deep down, why they did all of that for him, and not for her. She would wonder why he got the magic, and she didn't. It wouldn't be one big, traumatic event. It would be a slow, steady drip of inequality, 1,000 tiny cuts that leave a permanent scar. She tried to explain this to her husband. She laid out her fears, her guilt over the first birthday party, her desperate need to make sure both of their children feel equally and overwhelmingly loved. And he told her she was being ridiculous. He said she was just trying to make things more difficult. They fought. He just didn't see it. Or maybe, he didn't want to. After he left the room, angry and frustrated, she stood there in the quiet, surrounded by the festive decorations that now felt like a monument to her failure. And she made a decision. If her husband wouldn't help her fix this, she would fix it herself. She waited for a bit, letting the anger settle into a cold, clear resolve. Then, she got to work. She went beyond the balloons and streamers, adding a few more bits of leprechaun mischief around the house. And then, she took out a piece of paper. She wrote a note, in shaky, tiny green handwriting. She propped it up where both kids would see it. The note from Rascal said he loved the balloons and streamers that Mom and Dad put up for Ken's birthday. It said he hoped both kids had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. It said he enjoyed visiting both of them so much. And at the bottom, he said he'd left a little treasure for each of them. Beside the note, she placed 2 small piles of gold chocolate coins. When the kids woke up, she let Ken have his moment of birthday wonder. And then, she gathered them both together. She read the note out loud, emphasizing every single word. She made sure Ken understood that the leprechaun was there for him and for his sister. She made sure he understood that the big, magical decorations, that was all Mom and Dad. That was their love, made visible. She watched Amy's face light up as she showed her the coins Rascal had left just for her. And for the first time all morning, the knot in her stomach began to loosen. Later that day, she found her husband. There was no anger left in her voice, only certainty. From now on, she told him, we are going to decorate the house like this every year for both of our kids. And they will know it's from us. Not from some magical creature. The magic is us. It has to be for both of them. It's so easy to dismiss these things as small. A silly tradition, a harmless oversight. But childhood is built on these small moments. A child's sense of self-worth is crafted from the stories we tell them, both with our words and our actions. Her husband wasn't being malicious.